From the Louisville side, it sounded like both you guys kind of came away from this, like the bigger take was Louisville and just how maybe disappointing it was. I mean, I know they made it interesting at the end, but this was really in hand for the majority of that second half after North Carolina opened it up. So, RC, this is a Louisville team, man. They had money. They had a big budget. They spent a lot. And while it's not embarrassingly bad, I think you would have to say, given what people thought that this team would be coming into the season, it's probably falling short of that.
I thought this was the one game where you look at it and go, I expected them without Caleb Wilson to come in at Chapel Hill and get the win. I think that's fair to make that assessment of the group. With Michael Brown missing, 7 games he missed in the middle of the season or whatever it was and not being healthy, then he came back, and then you saw him get on a tear. You're kind of like, all right, they had reeled off like 5 or 6, then they go to SMU. Losing at SMU is not a bad place to go, but I fully expected them to come into Chapel Hill today and just offer a little bit more resistance than they did. I don't know what's going on in Louisville, and I'm not going to speculate like there's something wrong, but even to the point of where the disappointment might be with even Case and Pryor. I mean, he, a guy we thought coming into the year thinking what he could be, like if he could be a double-double guy or 12-8 guy or something like that, definitely a double-figure score. Now, he's barely coming off the bench. This team is missing something on their front line guy. They don't have that. Hatley does a really good job, but I'm talking about more of the bigger guys, size-wise. I think he does a really good job in their small ball lineup. But trying to beat big teams like Carolina with a small ball lineup is really, really difficult because you can hurt Carolina on the glass if you spread them out. And Louisville did a really good job of doing that today. They didn't force any turnovers, but they had zero resistance at the rim. I just think there's not enough toughness and rim protection, and they're just too easy to guard right now. They take them, like I said, those two guys, the balance of the shots, it's too easy to take all the other guys out. So maybe other guys got to do a better job of getting themselves involved in the game. Maybe Michael and Ryan Conwell got to do a better job of getting these guys going. But that's too much of a scoring responsibility on the guys on the team that has the potential to score. We've seen it happen, but they're just too streaky. The bad shot selection at times, settlement for threes. Give Carolina credit. They came out. They were aggressive on the 3-point line, running those guys off the line, and Carolina won the game. This was the first time for me, I'd say I was disappointed in what I saw from Louisville.
Do you share that sentiment, Justin? It seemed like you guys were on the same page about, just kind of what you saw from them tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's just this team, early on in the season when they were having some success, I think what I see with Michael Brown, obviously he had the injuries and it's hard to get into a rhythm whenever it's, you're out for a while, you're coming back, you're on minute restriction, now you're back fully. And then what I see from him is he's trying to figure out how to balance being a scorer and also being a playmaker, right? Like you go on a tear where you score 40, you score all these points, but like you make this Louisville offense run, right? And early on in the season, like for instance, I'll take a guy like Isaac McNeely, right? He's a guy that you have to make opportunities for. And early on in the season, you saw that. Now, all his shots are kind of coming late shot clock or highly contested because it's not a ton of ball movement side to side. So I think it's just there's not a cohesive unit right now with this Louisville team, whether you want to say it's because of the injury and him coming back, whatever. But it's just not really – everything's not moving, I feel like, how it was early on in the season. And then when you have a team that doesn't have a ton of rim protection and doesn't have a ton of, even before the rim protection, doesn't have a ton of defensive pressure that's able to keep guys in front, then when you go into an environment like a Dean Dome or somewhere else that's hostile, you got to have something that travels, right? And threes, they feel really good at home, but once you go away, things get a little bit different. And so I just think that's kind of the big picture with Louisville is when they're hitting shots, it's great, fantastic. They look amazing. But defensively, when they're not hitting shots, that's when that gap really starts to be like a really glaring issue. So can they kind of shore that up towards the end of the season? I don't know, but I think that's kind of the biggest hole for them.
They're easy to guard right now. Let's call it what it is. They're easy to guard right now. They made enough threes. They made 14 threes. They're easy to guard in the sense of if you have a big that provides rim protection like Carolina does, and you're able to play in drop coverage, it's just run them off the line. They're not a mid-range taking team. They don't take pull-up jump shots. So everything is 3 or at the rim, and they will settle and take a quick 3. And I think that at times when you don't have a 4 and a 5 that can consistently stretch the defense and make you guard them, and you can get away with one guy. Vesar never left the paint. He just stood there in the paint. He was elevated a little bit just to make sure to give the guard some help. And then every time there was dribble penetration at the rim, he's there. They're not finishing over that length. That's a difficult shot. And I get there, the way this team is analytically driven. But man, I mean, it's hard for undersized guards to go in the paint and finish over guys and not take mid-range shots. I know what that says, but that's what teams are doing. It's almost like they're playing that against them. It's just like if you got a shot blocker, run them off the line. They just got to do a better job executing. But their frontline guys, I just think there's a disappointment there. They're not getting the production that they needed, that they had early in the year. Teams are starting to make some adjustments to them. But, offensively, they made 14 threes. They only had 12 twos, 2-point baskets. Yeah. And so if you can't score off defense, get out in transition, doing other things, it's just a surprise. I had higher expectations of a Louisville team. I understand the Michael Brown injury. They'll make the tournament and everything else, but I'm not expecting a deep run or anything like that. They're still a scary team when they're making shots, but this team has to figure out a way to get some things done here before the end of the season.
Let's talk a little ACC.